How's it going today? Today we're going to, my name is Nathan, and I play in a band called All You Need Is Love, tribute to the Fab Four, and we're in Canada, and in the show, of course, I play Paul McCartney. Anyways, we're here today to discuss the Rickenbacker, 4001 bass, whether it's the V-63, which is a 1993 I have here, and we're going to start with this bass here that I had made from a guitar company called Rare Electric Guitars, and they're gone now. They've gone somewhere, and they're not in business anymore. But at the time, I wanted something that was better than what I see online, and it's okay that you can buy these already, kind of made like this, but this particular company, they were good that they would build the guitar the way you wanted it. So they would send me stages of this particular guitar. So this particular guitar really is, you could have bought this guitar stock, and it would have just sort of, this one would have been a Fire Glow, and it would have been stock, and that's fine. But then again, for the same money that you're paying for stock, you could have it built the way that you want. So what I got them to do is I sent them pictures, and every step of the way they would send me pictures, and then I would say, okay, that's what I want, and then they would proceed. So there was really good communication going on. And just to show you what the Fire Glow looked like, this is what it looked like before I got them to do the graphics for this bass. So it would have been, they had a choice of Fire Glow, Maple Glow, and just the natural, which is fine. But this Fire Glow is what McCartney had, and this is actually a neck through body. There are actually replicas where they insert the neck into the body, and I don't know what they do, glue it or whatever. But this actually is a neck through body. So it right away, it's not a bolt-on. There was a lot of 70 models that were bolt-ons, and I guess that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But Rickenbackers were obviously neck through body. Anyways, I like that. So anyways, if you compare headstocks, this replica is a little bit wider, which is fine because they probably didn't want to get sued. But anyways, because it's wider, it's a little bit stronger. So, I like that. Maybe it's good for the tension, for the, less, chances of bowing. Who knows? But, the greatest thing is they were willing to put these, I don't know if you can see them, but I got these wings put on, and they're darker, just like this one here, but they didn't do dark enough. But anyways, and then I got them to sort of make this headstock Fire Glow where it's not just all red. So it sort of fades in with a little bit of, the lighter yellowish, and it's quite nice. And then I also got them to do the red, the reverse, the truss rod cover, because as you can see, it goes the other way, and this one sort of is the opposite. And I know these are Chinese, but they've got these machine heads, and they work really good. The bass stays in tune. They are proportioned for the bass. They kind of look like those, and I'm happy with that. But also, you can just see the wings here. It looks really, really good. And the headstock, a lot of them are just red and nothing thought there. So I thought it would on the sides here, and the front and the back, you can just see this lighter yellowish, like this, and I quite like that. So as you see, there's no stripe. A lot of Rickenbackers, whether they're real or they're replicas or copies or whatever we call it, but this is actually a replica. I like to refer this as a replica because it was built more like Paul McCartney's Sgt Pepper bass, which is this bass here anyways. And for starters, the neck is not bound. Um, you know, quite a few Rickenbackers are. This one is not bound. Um, and as you can see, I have these round, exaggerated glow-in-the-dark stickers. And I'll tell you the reason why I do that is because I'm not a gifted player that knows where every note is. I think that it's just fabulous that players can do that. I don't do it, so I put these here so I can see the corner of my eye, and it kind of looks like I'm not looking down. So that's my secret. Yes, I told you my secret. But that's just me. So getting back to the bass, you know, for starters, this one has a black nut. That nut really matters. I mean, on Rickenbackers, they can be white or black, and this one happens to have a white one. But this one's black. And the biggest mistake I did was, they would have done it, but I don't know, somehow I've overlooked it, but I could have got this fretboard, which is rosewood. I could have got it more like this one, which is more reddish, and I could have got it lacquered. So this board is not lacquered, but that doesn't really make any difference the way it plays. It's just a look, superficial thing, which is I'm fine with. Both of these basses are strung with flat wounds. I do believe they're labella flat wounds. All my basses, Beetle basses, have labellas just because I just like them. And you know, the flat wounds is how you really get that Beatles, you know, 65 and up sound. And you know, I just think they're great things. You know, I mean, you do need to change flat wounds, okay? I mean, I've had some for a long time, but they just broke. You know, around in here, they would just break. But anywho, like I said, the neck has I think it has a beautiful fire glow because it's quite golden harvest yellow here, and then it's kind of light reddish here, and then you know, they've done a great job, I thought. You know, it's okay. The grain is good, and the way when I got the bass graphics done, I'll show you the bottom. The bottom is, you know, goes in here, and then right about here, it tapers off to where the fire glow goes, where the input jack is. It's not just, you know, done. And then it picks up off this side, and then goes into the horn here. And you can see I had the inner horns painted as well. So the silver went right into this inner horn, and the cream part went into this lower horn. So I saw a lot of pictures of the graphics when I was getting this bass done, and they were actually gracious enough to do the graphics as well. So these graphics are done, and then this bass has been lacquered. So this is never going to come off, and I think they did a great job. I've seen some of these Pepper basses online, and this just looks atrocious. It's just not looking very good. And you know, I didn't ask them to do this, but on this upper horn here and this gray stuff here, what I like what they did was it's got like a metal flake texture, and I never asked for that. And it just looks great. You know, it's kind of glittery. I personally like that. And of course, I wanted like a toaster cover pickup. I mean, they're not going to give me a Rickenbacker pickup when this is a replica. And this happens to be, you know, these are Wilkinson pickups, okay? They're just sort of no name. They're okay, but they really do the job. They're quiet, they don't hiss, they don't hum. So that's a good thing. Anyways, as you know, on Rickenbackers, it's kind of funny because, you know, this pick guard here, a lot of them don't extend from this point to this point here, where the pick guard meets the next pickup. And you can see that it is done on this American Rickenbacker. But if you look on other, you know, American-made ones that are made in the 70s, the gap is a lot shorter here, you know? It doesn't really matter, but, you know, they have the pick guard does not go as far as this one. So when this one was made, I made sure that they replicated that pick guard. So that was one of the details. And, you know, I leave this cover on. This is more like a 70s Rickenbacker cover opposed to this horseshoe cover, which is metal and it has, a line in between it, like a magnet. And so I didn't take this off because I just wanted to keep it as authentic, and I just rest my hand on it. I mean, a lot of people gets in their way, but it doesn't bother me. And so right here in the bridge, this is, it's not a bad representation of a Rickenbacker bridge and tailpiece, but it is not even close when you look at it in true detail. Luckily, people don't look at the bridge, but it's fine. It does the job, and I never really felt like putting on a real Rickenbacker bridge because I just didn't think it mattered for me. And it does not have, the Rickenbacker mutes where you just, it has a turn screw on each side and it raises it and lowers it, which I think is just awesome because, in the Beatles, listening to some of the songs that Paul McCartney played, I could never figure out how he got these sounds, and I asked somebody at a music store once, and I was so gullible because I thought they would know, and they had no idea. And what it was he was using the string mutes, right? So the string wouldn't vibrate as, back and forth as quickly, so you get that muted sound, and I just thought that was great. So anyways, it doesn't have that. It has these two screws, but that's just phony baloney. So I used a piece of foam here, and it's not my generation, but the older vintage players used foam to mute their strings, and I went through quite a few pieces of different foam to experiment until I got the right sound. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to get that Sgt Pepper sound, and by putting these piece of foam here by the bridge, it gave me that sound, and so it doesn't look great, but it really makes a difference, and you'll see a lot of basses that that had this done. And if you look at the lost bass that McCartney got back this year in 2023, and it's 2024 now, in the video Revolution, he's using that bass, but he's got a piece of foam under the strings as well. So, even McCartney was using that, for his techniques, and so, that's kind of great that I wasn't born at the time, but I'm using these techniques that were used at the time, and they're wonderful tricks to use. And when you see pictures and videos, you see people doing that, and so you're onto something good. Anyways, get back to the bass. These basses, for one, are not stereo basses, so you cannot get a Rico sound. You cannot hook these up to two separate bass amps and control each pickup. I mean, the American Rickenbacker, I hear my V-63, is mono, so I wanted this bass to be mono because I really don't need to go stereo for starters, but I do believe that Rickenbacker and maybe some other basses like Yamaha, Billy Sheehan, where they send two signals to two amps. I mean, some people like that. I don't really want to be carting another amp anyways, but that's just my opinion. But we'll move on. These knobs on these, Rickenbacker had export models to England, even though they were made in America, and they were, less expensive to make because, they didn't have any binding on them. There was no stereo, no binding on the neck. So it was a little bit, a little less expensive. And anyways, they were called Rose Morris models. And so I wanted to get a bass that was exactly like Paul McCartney. So this one here is a Rickenbacker V-63 1993. The only thing they need to do with this bass is reverse the headstock, but it is actually it is as close as McCartney's bass as you're going to get. So with this bass, the knobs are the same like that. They're just black, and they have a white line on here to tell where you are. you know, a lot of the American Rickenbackers from the '70s, and even, you know, they had a silver centerpiece that said, you know, tone, whatever it was, you know, volume or tone, and you know, I don't mind that, but you know, I'm just showing you the differences, right? The toggle switches were exactly the same. This is not a horseshoe pickup. I repeat that again, and this is not a true Rickenbacker bridge tailpiece. But that does not make it that it's a horrible bass or anything like that. It's just not the detail there. But you know, if you look at the bass, I love the way that they took the time to make it look like a Rickenbacker. If you look at that horn, you know, it's nice and slender. There's no binding. I don't really like the checker binding on Rickenbackers anyways. That's just my opinion. I know it's different, but I just never cared for it. So this neck, getting back to the bass, is a little bit fatter than this neck here. But I'm able to adapt to it, and it doesn't bother me. But it's got very, very nice action. And, you know, I was looking at the bass the other day, and, you know, playing flat rounds, this bass has been through a lot of shows and practices. There's very, very little wearage on with frets, which is, I think, is incredible because, you know, Rotosound strings will just eat up your frets. And, you know, unless you don't mind getting fret jobs or whatever you need to do, that's fine. But getting back to the bass here, yes, this was a fire blow, and I made sure that even this part here is more cream than the pickguard that is white. So I wanted that, and they did that, which was just fantastic. You know, I have no complaints about this bass. I'm not going to plug it in today. I mean, you know what Rickenbackers sound like. Does it sound like a Rickenbacker? It does. But I would say, more in a sense, a passable sounding Rickenbacker. And I'll tell you a story about this. I never really had any problems with this bass. One day, one of these pots, I do believe was 500, and it failed me. So I had it replaced by a good friend of mine, and he put in one that's 250. So there's less resistance, and now this bass has got a little bit more output, and it really does do its job. And I think it's kind of neat because it was built for me, and I saw over every step that I wanted. Like I said, reverse headstock and the truss rod cover. I mean, that looks more like Paul's, because Paul's was really just a neck that was just reversed, you know. So this bass is a little bit lighter than that bass. I know the wood is completely different. I mean, it's not. I'm not sure what it is, but you know, most of your fingers make the sound anyways, right? But it doesn't have binding on the neck, which I just love that. I never really cared for binding. I know some people, it doesn't bother them, but it doesn't bother me. But I don't care for it. I'm not a big fan of it. So it was nice to have this bass built the way I wanted, and I have to tell you the truth. I kind of retired it a little bit because when this one was getting repaired, I was playing this one. And it is not painted up like this, but I'm not going to paint this bass up because, as you know, it probably decrease the value of what it's worth. So this one, I retired it a little bit, and I've decided that it depends what performance I'm going to play. I'll either play it in one set and play this one in another set, or just play it on a few songs. But you know how it is carting on another guitar to another show. But however, I mean, you know, in all promo pictures I need to have this bass because we're all fanatical, and you know, associated with the Pepper uniforms with this bass. And you know, I just got a case for it. Never came with a case, but I do have the vintage Rickenbacker case that was made for this bass. It's brand new, and you know, really tell you the truth, is it worth $400 or more? No, it isn't. But it's a Rickenbacker, and you know, some people are willing to pay for it. You can buy these off, I'm sure, AliExpress or something, and to be honest with you, they will sound exactly the same. But this one is special because I had it made the way I wanted to, and that company is no longer. So these ones that you get off AliExpress are just made, and I don't think you can get custom. But I think I've seen somebody that had some guitars made that. There's another company now that's doing custom guitars. So the thing about these like rare electric guitars at the time was any guitar that you have that was your dream, they would build it for you. And there's one fellow that was a huge AC/DC fan, was making a Gretsch guitar. So he wanted it built, but he didn't want any of the routing done or anything like that. So he got the guitar made, and then he would route it out and he put Gretsch pickup in it. And it was just phenomenal amount of money he saved. And I realize that isn't a entry, inexpensive way to do things, but we all have our budget. And I've had other Beatle tribute guys that play McCartney see this bass and play it, and they had bought the one that it's got really bad graphics here. You'll know what I'm talking about. And I'm glad that I didn't do that, because not everybody wants a bass that looks like this. Okay, you really got to play in a Beatles tribute band to play this bass, because there's no other bass that looks like it. But from behind, yeah, I never painted it because I thought, I'll just keep some fire glow to it. And it would have been a really nice looking bass had I kept it just factory. And the finish on these, they're not too bad. Nothing doesn't check or anything. And to be honest with you, I look after this bass as I would if it was American or whatever. And as I was saying earlier, what I love about this bass is one of a kind. There isn't another bass that exists like this because I had it custom made. And it was a wonderful experience to have that done. And I never wanted to ever paint this bass up. I considered getting graphics done, and I think there's some kind of material or wrap that you can do that would have done all this, but I still would have to have put it on and everything. And I think it was just a pain. But I think I've decided that in the tribute show, I'll take this bass and I'll take this bass and I'll work it in where I'm playing them both in the show, because this bass had this finish on it before it had this finish on it, because actually it had this finish on it, which is the fire glow, and McCartney's wasn't really red like mine. His was a very dark fire glow. You see pictures, and his was a very dark fire glow, and the reissues, a lot of them aren't dark like that, and I wish they would have done that, because you want to get as close as possible. Anywho, then they all painted up their guitars, the Beatles, George and John, and Ringo did his drum skin, but this is what McCartney did, and of course, like I said, you wouldn't want to do that. So it was great that it was a company like that, and I'm glad I did it. This bass is, I got it built in about, like I said, around 2011. I just come back from my holiday in Jamaica, so I remember that. And they even did the Rickenbacker for me. That's kind of cheeky, but I don't try to pass this off as a Rickenbacker. I had it made for the show. Okay, I'm not selling this bass. This bass is my workhorse. So I'm not passing this off as a Rickenbacker. I am passing it off as a replica of Rickenbacker because of the show I play. Anyways, this is the Chinese replica, which I like to call it, because that's what it is. And you're purely curious what it sounds like, but it does sound like a Rickenbacker, especially when you put either round wound strings on it or flat wound. You get that really Chris Squire or Geddy Lee sound with these basses. If you're not a Beatles fan or Chris Squire, and you just want the sound of Rickenbacker, but you don't have the funds, I do recommend you do buy those AliExpress ones for about $300 because you're getting a very well built bass, believe it or not. Or you could find one that looks like mine, that doesn't have the Beetle graphics. It's worth every penny. They're great bass for what they are, but if you're really not happy with, having a replica, and I understand people out there that they don't support that kind of thing because they're very, very loyal to Rickenbacker, which I totally understand. And I'm not here to say that this is a better guitar than this, or we know this is a better guitar than that by far. But I'm just explaining to all of you that if you don't have the money for a Rickenbacker, you can get one of these, and it's the closest that you're going to get to sounding like a Rickenbacker and affordable. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you try to make it look like a Pepper bass if you want to. I mean, you could do this yourself if you have the talent, okay? So we're going to switch over now to my 1993 Maple Glow V-63 Rickenbacker. Now, nothing against the ones that they did after these, which was what they called the C-64, and they actually did a reverse headstock. And some people like that, and some people don't. Obviously, see that I do, but that didn't matter. And they did not have a fire glow in Long McQuaid at the time. They had another maple glow like this, but these walnut wings were very, very light, and I didn't like that. I very much like that they're much darker in contrast with the maple. Now, what this bass, it is 1993, so therefore it's 30 years old. I can't prove it, but right here, I can see that it's really cotton brown, or not dark. Darken's more the word, and it just looks so beautiful because it's aged. And right here, I can see where I put my arm here, and a little bit of blue here, and that is coming off my Sgt Pepper uniform, which is not getting into the base, it's just getting into the lacquer, which is, I don't care. I could probably get it off, but I just left it there. But anyways, we're going to start at the top here. A lot of Rickenbackers, if you study them, some of these headstocks are fatter, but this one's kind of skinnier and longer, and the hook is a little bit different on some of them. But this particular bass, it has Rickenbacker, the truss rod plate, but made in USA is parallel to the Rickenbacker. It is not horizontal here, like some of the Rickenbacker. That doesn't really matter, but I just wanted you to know that. This is not raised, scripted Rickenbacker logo. It is like Rickenbacker and then a piece of clear on top of the Rickenbacker. So I guess that's what they did in the 60s. The one thing that I was really surprised is the C64. When I tune my bass here on the V-63, it's tuning, just like basses all tune. But with the C64, it's like a banjo. So these two strings here, I do believe you're tuning them the opposite way that you would be tuning this, which would be counterclockwise. Now you've got to get used to that because, and I found that a little bit confusing, but that's what they did. Okay, so it's got a white nut. Rickenbackers do have black ones. It doesn't really matter. It looks good with black or white, but this one happens to have a white one. This fingerboard here, sometimes you see them darker. This one's got a beautiful color to it. It's just really nice. I like the board lacquered. It's just, doesn't bother me. My frets, because this bass is 30 years old, have kind of oxidized a little bit of green there, but I never got them polished because it's not something that is important to me. As long as I think that it doesn't affect the sound, I'm okay with that. The neck here, they started making these basses, I think in the probably the 80s and finished in around 1999, discontinued. This one's a 1993, but the neck one on this one is quite uh, slender, it's not really chunky. I played one of these Rickenbackers, it was American stereo, one, and it had the knob that, had vintage or the new Rick sound. And the neck I thought was very square and quite chunky, and probably for bigger hands. I don't have big hands. And this bass, I've been told, is got a nice neck on it. So Rickenbackers do vary in their neck widths and things like that. But I like this one. So if you get the V-63, you can get different ones, slender or chunkier, and this one is slender. So I quite like that. This one that has no binding on the neck, and the dots on these are really, really small. So there's no way that I could ever look down and see where I am. But with these glow in the dark stickers, for one thing, they glow in the dark and you can see where you are all the time. I mean, for me, I know where I am because I don't have to look this way. I can just see it on the top. And, it's got a nice grain to it. And, maple, bird's eye maple is quite a beautiful wood. I mean, it's so expensive these days. I can't believe how much Rickenbackers cost. But one thing that's unique about Rickenbackers is if you ever look at the width of them, they're really thin guitars. If you look at a Fender or a Gibson, they're quite thick, but they have neck through bodies. And they really do have a unique sound. So if you look at this bass, when you look at a Rickenbacker, for some reason, this white pickguard plastic they use, you can actually see the wire running from this toaster to the electronics here. So you can see through, so that's interesting. And getting into this part of the bass now, I was telling you these pick guards are wider here than, now you see 4003 S models in America where they've done that, but most of the Rickenbackers, they were probably about this thick, from this point here to about here. So they didn't really come up to this pickup ring. And if you look at this horseshoe pickup that they call, if you look at the mounting bracket on it, this thing's huge. This thing's way wider than, the stereo ones that you see that are made in the USA for USA market, where these were made for European market. And this cover here, it's like two pieces, and then there's a gap in the middle. And Rickenbacker were known for that. So these are like magnet. So it has conjunction with the pickup and the magnets. So nowadays it's plastic, and it's really a shame that you pay for a bass that's so expensive and they put plastic here. So they're not using that technology with these metal covers with the magnets and the pickups. And that was the whole point. So anyways, so this pick guard and this horseshoe pickup are different than American made Rickenbackers for American market. And the bridge here, well, it's just like any Rickenbacker tailpiece bridge. Now these are really pain to set up, there's a thing that's called bridge lift, and this has had bridge lift. So my basses have set up many, many times because it had high action and I didn't like that. So it's had some work done many times because of this bridge lift that they discovered. And I don't really want to change any parts of this bass. This bass is 30 years old, and most of the time it really, I hate to say it, sat underneath in my closet, and because of this bass, because I was using this bass because I got caught in the details, and it was very passable as a Rickenbacker, but as this one failed me one day and was having repaired, I took this one to a very, very big show, and they gave me a huge bass amp, and the sound system was just ridiculous, and the tone that I was getting from this was unbelievable. And I was surprised because I relied on this and this just sat. But this just has an amazing sound. So it took me quite a few years to adapt to this bass and learn how to play it with really good confidence and appreciate its tone. It wasn't like my Fender Precision or Jazz bass or Music Man bass or even my replica. So it was definitely an experience getting back to this bass. Getting back to it, on the back here, we have Rickenbacker uh, made tuning pegs. It actually says Rickenbacker on it, right here on the top. Really small, you know, scripted in there. The V or the C64s do not have that. They're more true to, but that doesn't matter. It just says Rickenbacker on there, so who cares? But they're very good tuning pegs. I like them. One thing about Rickenbacker, I mean, a lot of people don't like them, but they're built well. Like I said, these black knobs here, they are definitely, they were made for the export model. I prefer them, but they do make American um, knobs for their American basses like that. And this is a toaster pickup, and what's great about this toaster pickup, it has more gain than any other Rickenbacker, period. So people are chasing these kind of bass. So I happen to have this bass. So that was a bonus for me. And, I'm not a big fan of high gain pickups where some people like that. It doesn't seem to matter. A Rickenbacker sounds like a Rickenbacker, but to have these toaster pickups, that's what the bass was equipped with back in the day. So they really try to make these basses as close as possible as the originals. Um, this bass has very low action now, and I just love to play it. Most of the time I play with a pick because, I get nice tone and momentum and all that stuff out of it when I'm playing the fluidity I want to do my runs. But it's a great place to play, and it is quite a bit heavier than the Hofner. I do believe the Hofner's around 5, maybe a bit over that. And this thing here is probably about 9, 10 pounds, depending on, and it's interesting because, just because Rickenbacker is Rickenbacker, there are some that are lighter than others, some that are heavy, just like Fenders. This one's not too bad. I got a nice fat strap for it, and that's great because it gets a little bit heavy, but this bass is incredible because when you hit a string, it just rings. The sustain on these Rickenbackers are amazing. Do they sound different than a Fender? Do they sound different than a Gibson? Or, in fact, in any bass? Yes, they do. Quite frankly, whether it's guitars or bass guitars, I will say Rickenbackers sound like Rickenbackers because of the way they're made, their technology, their pickups. These are handmade guitars come from California. This bass is a discontinued bass. I've had it since 1993. I am the original owner. I have the vintage case. It's gray with blue velvet inside. It's really nice. This bass, I've seen this bass for $7,000 US on eBay, and I've seen them for as low as 3, and in between that. But I paid about $1,100 Canadian, and that was quite a bit of money back in its day. And I think it's really unfortunate that you have to pay top dollar to get a Rickenbacker. And it's funny because even if you're not a really advanced bass player, or you have a Rickenbacker, you're going to get in that band at an audition because you got a Rickenbacker. And that doesn't make sense, but Rickenbackers are once you get hooked on them, you got to have one. They definitely do sound different. These are equipped with flat wound, so you're going to get more of the McCartney sound. And he extracted sounds out of a Rickenbacker that was different than, say, Geddy Lee or Chris Squire or Roger Glover from Deep Purple. And these guys were into the trebly, clanky part of the bass. Now that cuts through a lot of, heavy distorted guitars or rock and roll, or, if you like that. When I was young, I was just absolutely crazy about that Rickenbacker sound. But now that, I can either have that clanky sound, or I can have that nice smooth tone that I get on this bass. And I wouldn't say that I like one over the other, but it's just nice that you if you want, you could play with the flat wounds on most tunes, but with the round wounds, you're going to get more of a trebly sound, which doesn't sound good on all sounds. I think. So it's great to have these for the Beatles because that's what everybody wants to see, and I definitely wouldn't pay that much money to get a one, and I couldn't anyways because they don't make them anymore. But I wouldn't want to buy one that's vintage and pay that kind of money because that's a lot of money for I mean they're worth every penny because they sound like Rickenbacker, but I just think that even Les Paul's the relics, I really shouldn't say, but relics, I wish they sounded for the money that they're made for. Like, I once went to a guitar show and this guy was telling me that this relic that he showed for me was a Fender Stratocaster. It was $10,000, and I said, well, does it sound different than a stock Stratocaster? And he said no. So unless you really want that relic, I'm not prepared to pay $10,000. And you can see this guitar is 30 years old. It's near mint. Most guitars don't have those kind of markings on it. If I really wanted to, I could probably relic my own guitar. I think that works on cars, vintage cars, but I think on guitars, I think they look great when you keep them in nicer shape, And I'm sorry I didn't plug my guitars in today because I know that you know what a Rickenbacker sounds like. And this bass, it doesn't sound quite as the tones that this bass will have and sustain, but it does the job, and it does sound very, very good. And believe it or not, on some Beatles tunes, this bass works or this bass works, but that doesn't matter because when you've got it all, and you need to do a recording of that song, or you want to get close to that song, you can have that. And another thing that I learned is I have all my volume knobs and my tone knobs all full out now. I used to roll back this and that, and I just felt that that's for the mixing part, for the sound guy. If I hear it too teeny, I'll just tell him to roll it off on the board. But I found that if I roll this back too much, I lose all the beautiful tonal qualities that I'm going to get. Maybe people disagree with that, but just for myself, so I never really want to be opinionated because everybody's different, and I wanted to make a video today about why I have two Rickenbacker basses, and quite frankly, if I was traveling really far, I don't trust the airlines. They would throw this bass around, and I'd rather have it at home because it's worth so much money and it just plays so well. I wouldn't want to see anything happen to it, like the neck cracking because they threw it around, or any kind of damage to it. Where this bass, I still value because I love it, but if it got stolen or damaged, I could handle that. And so it's got its purposes in that way, and also it looks more like what I need for Sgt Pepper. So hope you enjoyed my videos today. Peace, thanks for watching.